Hey guys, what's up? I'm Katerina Nicole, and you're watching Interview Under Fire.
All right, welcome back everyone to a brand new episode of Interview Under Fire. This is your one and only host here, Sunny, back here once again. Happy spring to those of you who celebrate, if I can say that. Today I want to welcome someone whose voice is definitely going to be heard down the road in the majestic, can I say majestic, Katerina Nicole. Katerina, thank you so much for joining our IOF series today. And of course, congrats on the well-deserved recognition that you've been getting on Serene In Violent Oceans, your debut EP dropped on February 21st. You had that album release party not too long after that. What a way to start 2025. And we're already in April, but there's a lot to talk about this amazing record and what you're all about. As I said earlier, now that the dust has sort of settled, right? How have things been? You kind of had to pinch yourself for a second, right? With all the reception you've been getting.
Yeah,
Have you had
I
the chance to just
definitely
take this
had
all
to.
in?
Yeah, it was a amazing experience getting into the studio, seeing what would unfold, digging deep, bringing up all those dark parts of myself,
Hmm.
and changing up my writing skills, and having two co-writers on the CP, my producer Jordan Chase and Matthew Lazaire, and just kind of having different perspectives and sonically hearing such heavy music and being able to put my pop vocals on. And while I'm learning how to scream, it was so much fun.
I didn't even mention the pop part yet. I'm a huge pop fan. We may not have time for that part, but I know this is going to be a podcast of shout outs. Shout out to Tori and Amy, by the way, because I know you don't do this by yourself, so the team is very important. And of course, Jordan and Matthew, you talked about them being a part in this, but Serene and Violent Oceans, right? It dropped on February 21st. Katerina, you're originally from where?
Summerland, BC, Canada.
I wonder if the local music scene there had any lasting effect on you. Can you get a little bit more into that?
Yeah, growing up, I didn't really have a very small town, okay, like
Okay.
30,000 people, and there was like 100 people in my grad class type thing. So I grew up very like sheltered. And
Uh-huh.
so I grew up with Celine Dion, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears,
Love
Alicia
it.
Keys. I had a lot of female influences with powerhouse vocals. So for me, right away, I knew that I wanted to do that. And so my mom was very supportive, my dad too. I did lots of training, a lot of classical folk and stuff like that. We have a local Elvis festival. So I'm
No
hearing
way.
Elvis. The impersonators are just like creating such, amazing energy exchange with the audience. And we have a few music festivals, but going into my teen years, it was my eye-opening experience of alternative, listening to Octane. And I have to thank my neighbor for that because we would go 4x4 in the bush and he would put on Lamb of God and Disturbed and Slayer and Metallica. And all of a sudden I was like, what is this? And it's something that I would never have opened my eyes to, probably being in such a small town. So it was very fitting too, because I was
Yeah.
very rebellious in those years. So I
Isn't it
really enjoyed it.
isn't it funny? Like you're describing your experience. Like, what is that's like all of our experiences as metalheads. Like when we first hear a metal song, it's like, oh my God, it's like this whole new dimension that you've never thought existed, and all of a sudden you belong there. You talked about like listening to those bands. Katerina, your influences, whether they're personal or professional, who are they and what do they mean to you? I don't know if you get a chance to talk about this much.
Do you mean people I know personally or just
Or yeah, just in general.
I would say Haley Williams from Paramore has been my number one influence. Like I was working at a pizza place. I think I was 13,
Yeah.
like $5 an hour.
What was the name of the pizza place? Can you share that?
What's that? The name?
Yeah, the pizza place.
Yeah, Murray's Pizza and
Murray's
Pasta.
Pizza. Okay, cool, cool. Okay.
And I just remember Crush, Crush, Crush from Paramore getting on the radio.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Man.
turn that up. What is that? Oh my God. I instantly was like, she's doing that and she's more raw and alternative. And it was something different
Hmm.
than all the other ladies that I've heard sing. So that's really when I went down that rabbit hole of Hayley Williams my whole life growing up. And there's a crazy story actually. I was traveling solo after COVID
Okay.
and I just wanted to like go to different studios and try out different genres or just see what like would come out of sitting down with a producer and seeing what we could create. And I walked into Plush Recordings in Orlando, Florida,
Yeah.
and Paramore's first album, All We Know Is Falling, was on the wall, and that's where they recorded that album. And I had instant goosebumps. Like, I didn't know this, and I guess I need to do more, reading up on my
Dude,
favorite
I'm
band.
getting goosebumps now listening to that.
Yeah, and it was such a moment of like, wow, I'm doing this, and I'm doing it in a different way too, because who just goes around to like some random studio all the way across the freaking nation, It's kind of interesting, but yeah, she's really helped me out through a lot of times in my life. So
We mentioned that this is going to be a podcast of shout outs, so shout out to Haley Williams. I mean, it's really cool to see someone like her like really impact a talent like you, and I can really hear it obviously in the EP, like your influences. And I appreciate you sharing that with me too. And you mentioned, after the pandemic, right? For fans and listeners who don't already know, can we go back to maybe 3 years ago? I know the last thing we want to do is revisit the pandemic, but that was an important time for you, okay, Katerina,
yeah,
because I think we were still pretty much in a pandemic, but that was also when you dove headfirst into the heavier side of music from pop and EDM as well. I feel like you mentioned this before in other outlets, but we can't ignore the sense of inspiration here, Katerina, okay, because it's really cool to hear your story. If you could briefly talk about that time that I just mentioned when you knew that this was actually going to happen. You're talking about being in the studio. You're talking about looking at that record on the wall. You're talking about those goosebumps. A few years, a few years went by in a blink, and here you are sitting with me talking about this journey. But is there something that you can point to? It's like, man, that was it. I can look back on it and pull from that.
I think it's when everything came full circle. The EDM was amazing.
Hmm.
I wanted to learn how to DJ, went to Amsterdam, learned how to DJ, realized I wasn't very good at it. Probably could have
That's
stuck with
okay.
but it was hard to get a job too because I was in Greece a lot.
Yeah,
Um, and then I was just working long distance with my friend and producer who did my EDM stuff. So we were doing long distance, and I was, using the studio here in Greece.
yeah.
And when I had gone back to Florida, I went again and I went to Miami and I went to try and make another R&B track because I made Love Like Yours. And I was like, I really like this vibe. Reminded me kind of a like Alicia Keys vibe. So I went back and it ended up going really dark and there was no getting out of it. And I was like, something's coming up, but it wasn't jiving. The engineer was great, but I was like, let's just leave this project. I'm going to head back to Canada. So I called my buddy, Dylan from the Wild Band, who's from Kelowna, BC.
Okay.
Uh, they travel a lot in Europe and stuff. They're pretty well known over there. And he's like, you know what? I have a producer that's really great, Jordan Chase from Udalali Studios, and he's in West Kelowna. And at this time, I didn't really know anybody in the Okanagan Valley in my
Yeah.
area that was into alternative stuff. So my friend Dylan hooked me up with him, and I took that track from Miami and brought it to him, and he was like, "Oh, I love this. We're gonna make this dark pop." And that was Last Whisper. So Last Whisper was kind of the catalyst of this is the new me, this is the dark me, and it started this fire in me.
Hmm.
And I started doing some more EDM tracks, but they just started getting darker and darker.
That's so
And
cool.
so
I
so I
kind of
kind
love
of
that.
yeah, and I was like, I can't ignore this. And so I just decided with Jordan, it was a year later. I'm like let's try and make something. And we just got in there and we just did it.
It's so crazy to hear how your music just evolves too. I love that. Katerina, the thing is, this is a topic I won't stop talking about either, because you've been making the rounds, like I mentioned. You had that album release show, right? You perform live, but you've been performing live since you were a kid, if I'm not mistaken. But what is it
Yeah.
about live music that really, I feel like potentially brings out the best in you? Do you feel like a whole sense of there's a part of your personality that you may not be able to tap until you're on stage? Do you feel that same way?
Yeah, absolutely. Like every other time in my life, I feel like I don't fit in or I don't belong. And it's when I get on stage that I just feel this sort of connect or this like ohm, And,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it really felt good to get back on stage and sing my EP. And it was mostly my friends and family and then some locals. It was just kind of like, here I am as an adult and I'm doing it and I love it. And what's going to happen from here? This is just like the beginning.
Yeah.
This is the new thing.
I'm gonna get on the production in a little later, but I'm gonna give as I was listening to the EP while breaking the replay button, obviously, I was thinking about, man, this would be you're talking about opening for artists. Like you would setting the tone for like these metal shows, right? Rock shows, whatever it is. And I'm thinking, man, Katarina would be great for this band, this band, this band. Spirit Box is coming here tomorrow, by the way. And I was
Oh,
thinking, man, they would be Katarina would be perfect for this. I
so
think, yeah, go
so
ahead.
the old drummer for Spirit Box, Ryan Lorkey, is my
Yeah.
drummer.
Are you kidding me? No, of
No,
course you're not kidding me. I'm not
he's
surprised at
he's
all.
from
That's
he's
awesome.
from my area, so he's actually the session drummer on the EP, and he liked my stuff, and he goes, "Let's
Oh
be a
my
band." So he
gosh.
performed with me on February 22nd, and we did film it, by the way, where it's going to be uploaded soon to YouTube, so you
Very
can see
cool.
him jamming out. Um, yeah, so I kind of Spirit Box was also an influence during this EP because I saw the softer vocals from Courtney, but
Yeah.
also screaming. So it was really nice to learn how to put that together.
There's a similarity there because if you think about it, Spirit Box evolved from a different. I grew up listening, not grew up, like I getting into heavier music. I listened to I Wrestled a Bear once, and that was a different side of Courtney that people may not even know that yet because you have Spirit Box fans who are just discovering Spirit Box. But if you listen to another band, you can see a different side of Courtney. Kind of like
Mhm.
with you, you're seeing a different side of Katarina with these EDM and the pop elements that you came from. I think really shows a lot of not only maturity but shows progression and growth in your musicality. So
Mhm.
there's that. I can see where that comparison is. But hey, dude, that's awesome. I didn't even know that. That's news to me. The
It's
drummer.
so
So
awesome. My band is great because Jordan Chase, my producer, is my
yeah.
bassist, and he's so multi-talented as well. Amazing singer. He's been teaching me how to scream. And then I've got Colton Douglas on guitar as well. So I have a really tight-knit band in my area, and
Hmm.
they're very busy with the studio and everything else they got going on. And they've had so many peaks in their lives. So they're doing this because they like me and because they like my songs. They
Yeah.
help create them and stuff. So, I really, yeah, we can talk about, in what's happening in the rest of the year, but I want to open up for bands. I want to perform. That's top priority for me.
That's gonna happen. It's
Yeah,
it's gonna
it's
happen.
just
I can't wait for
honestly,
you. I
it's a
can't. I'm
little
hyped for you.
it's just a little bit intimidating because I've never been in a band.
Sure, sure.
I don't know that side of the industry. So right now I'm trying to make those networking connections for people to help me. Be like, help me get on this on this lineup, help me get on this tour and stuff like that. So I'm learning right now. So I can do that towards the end of the year.
We just named a bunch of people on this conversation already. You have a good team. You're surrounded by good people, Katarina. So
I am. I'm
you're gonna
very
get there. So,
grateful.
um, you ready to tour? You ready to take this on the road?
Oh yeah. So
I,
ready.
no, go ahead. You go first. You go first.
I was gonna say I need more songs actually to
Hey,
put.
you mentioned the other EP, but I don't know if I can ask you this. Yeah, I'll ask you this. I don't because I think it's fun. I want to do a little pre-tour prep here. If you were to take something with you on the road that's like essential, what would it be? Can you think of something right now off the bat? I've had so many different crazy answers for this because I've had artists who say, I bring my stuffed animal with me, kind of like a mental hurdle, like a push for positivity, I would bring like this piece of cloth with me and I sleep with it. Like I've had so many different kinds of answers.
I,
I know you're gonna take this on the road soon, but
oh
I
God, I hope
can't help
so.
but ask because I feel like we'll get some good ones from you.
Let me come back to that. I'll think about it
Okay.
while we continue. I have no idea.
Hey, that's something to think about. So definitely something when you start packing your bags, it's like, oh yeah, Sonny asked me this question. What is around my
Yeah,
room?
what's
That's
important?
and of course, aside from the music, I'm always intrigued to hear about other aspects of an artist's life that potentially feed into their creativity and personality. You're into cooking and baking. Can you imagine what a cool thing would be if you did like a cooking with Katerina live on Instagram, something like that?
And
Dude, think about that.
I'd probably spike them because I'm from BC.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so your love for cooking and baking, did that just start like when you were young? Was there something that you can also point to that influenced it?
Having such great Greek culture, honestly, my grandfather is
Oh,
from this
yes.
island that I'm on right now called Naxos Island.
Hmm.
So I grew up with just like amazing Mediterranean food and spending my summers here, I'd go back to Canada and my family would cook. My dad had 5 restaurants in Montreal before he had me. And then he had a restaurant in BC when he met my mom. So it's been in my family for a while.
Greek food is my favorite food, so you're talking to the right person here. That's amazing. So I'm gonna look forward to something like that down the road. So I'm giving you ideas. So that's like, but let's get to Serene in Violent Oceans. I'm never gonna stop talking about this. This dropped on February 21st. You know, a blueprint for a debut, Katerina. You set the bar pretty high, in my opinion, because I know you have another EP already in the works, right? You've had several and of course, multiple outlets praise your work and rightfully so. You're also independent. Let me remind everyone about that. Um, because that's not an easy thing to do, but you're making shit happen and I'm proud to see that from someone like you. I wonder what is it like kicking off like this first chapter, I guess, of Katerina as an independent artist. I wonder if there's a level of convenience that comes with being an independent artist. Probably not always going to be like this, I can imagine. Maybe there's a label down the road that you may be looking into, but talk to me about that. Being an independent artist, what are you seeing? What do you feel? What do you, is it encouraging that you're seeing the results? Like, man, if I can do this as an independent artist, can you imagine what I can do with a label behind my back?
Yeah, going into this EP, I already knew that I wanted to rebrand myself
Hmm.
and find this alter ego that I have. From a lot of life experience, and it's just something that's within me that needed to come out during this EP and will continue to as my
Sure.
music evolves. And so I really wanted the visuals to line up with this EP. So I hired Kevin Moore from Soft Surrogate, who also does the artwork for Rise Records, and he's amazing. There's a lot of projects that he's had his hands on that I admire so much, and I was like, I'm gonna go with best of the best. And he's actually in the Okanagan Valley as well, in Kelowna, BC.
Okay.
So
I'm
he's
taking all these notes as you're talking. This is
I think
amazing.
that's what you're doing, yeah.
Go ahead.
And he's kind of in the inner circle with my producer and everybody. So it was an easy choice to be like, look at me. What do you think I need? What do you think I'm gonna look like,
Hmm.
for this album artwork? And he really wanted to have that cinematic look, which I absolutely love. And we wanted to carry that through into the 2 music videos that I've done now,
Yeah.
for What I Know Now and House of Cards. So that's been really important to have a visual that's up to par with the kind of music I'm creating.
I think you have arrived with Serene and Violent Oceans. Now that you have another one coming up, gosh, I'm ready for it. When you hear acknowledgments from multiple media outlets and especially with it where you are at now, is there a level of pressure at all for you when you start prepping for a first album drop, or you just drown out all that noise?
Oh, it's interesting because when I finished the EP in the studio, it was like such a weight off my shoulders, like all of this pent up feelings that
Yeah.
finally got put out there and gets to see a new light and put into something beautiful and then giving it to the world is something different for sure. I'm very proud of what I did and getting into, a second EP. It's definitely a weird feeling of like, okay, I'm 2 feet in now. I'm definitely here to stay.
Yeah.
Here's more screaming. Here's some other things, heavier guitar. And um, we had a couple of hurdles for a couple of the tracks that you're going to hear because at first I was like, wait, is this me? And I didn't have that. And the first EP, Serene In Violent
Yeah.
Oceans, just came out like vomit. It was just amazing. It was just like, this is it. This is how I feel, completely like vulnerable and honest, 1,000%. And so going into this second EP, I was like, new things are coming up and I want to stay true to that. And so I started questioning a couple of things like, is this sound exactly me? Is this melody right? Lyrics. And my producer Jordan was just like, no, these songs fucking slap. And I was like, I know they slap. I'm not denying that, but are they me? So we had a couple of like, you know, days where I wasn't quite sure and I had that doubt and I had to go home and figure out what was going on with me. And then I was able to come around and be like, no, this song is meant for me. And Jordan was like, if you don't want them, like I'll keep them or I'm gonna give them a song. I was like, no, they're mine. They're my
Oh
songs.
my gosh.
Make them for me. No way.
So
So
my head is exploding right now after you just told me all that. There's a couple things I wanna say. Number one, is there a vlog on this? If there's like a documentary on the production process, oh, I'm just imagining all that just coming out and just seeing your development with and the chemistry you're building. That I think that's what I'm getting. That's my biggest takeaway from what you're telling me when you start working with the producers and they're telling you, no, this shit fucking slaps. Yeah. And then it's like mentally you're like, I feel like we need the wings for this now. As we're
yeah,
talking, we're talking about this. Um, but this EP, now I'm really curious if this could be a precursor into what's to come. Maybe a sneak peek into what's to come on the next EP. You're nodding your head. Or are we just barely scratching the surface here?
no, it's Serene and Violent Oceans times 10.
Oh my God. Let's do it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
From this album, let me just talk about this really quick. From Catch My Breath to Emotionally, which is I think that's my favorite track, Emotionally. To What I Know Now. It flowed really well. I want to applaud you, but I want to applaud you and your bandmates, okay? Because each of you went above and beyond on this. The drum fills during the first part of Catch My Breath, I already knew I was in for a treat. When you tell me the Spirit Box is there's a relation to that band, I'm like, okay, everything is connecting. I want to give them a golf clap, by the way. Can we do a golf clap? But hearing this album, these atmospheric textures between beauty and brutality, complimenting the personal and often I felt vulnerable vocals too from you. Definitely heard some pop influence like we mentioned earlier. I made sure my neighbors ended up loving this album as well because my stereo and my windows right there. There's a reason why your lyrics to me now are sung in the manner they are. Something you may not been have been able to reach with your EDM and pop days. Would you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I love the EDM. It was so much fun. It's happy-go-lucky, and everybody's having a great time and dancing. And I love chill house, especially here in the Mediterranean. It's so nice to listen to when you're laying at a beach bar. But there was just this overwhelming feeling all the time of there's something else that I got to get out, and it
Yeah.
was just egging on me. So I really feel like I'm meant to be where I am right now.
It's almost therapeutic in a sense as you're describing that. I wonder how much do things change when you first start composing on an album like this to where you ended up finishing it. I know it's just 5 songs, but did a lot change in between? Did nothing change in between, which is also okay. Did you have a specific sound from day one?
So we recorded the songs 1 to 5, and that's how it's laid on the EP. And I wanted them to flow into each other because that is my journey. And Catch My Breath is my most vulnerable track. And it was kind of like this is what I really need to deal with first before we
Yeah.
can move into the other tracks. And I really came into the studio with my themes, with words that were sticking out to me, with, lots of stuff. I gave Jordan a lot of stuff to work with, which was great. And he's really good at reading people. So he knew exactly what we needed to do. And so going into
Hmm.
the flow of it, by the time you get to emotionally, it was a very emotional day. I couldn't have anybody else in the studio. I needed a couple of good cries.
Yeah.
The end of that day was so draining for me. I went home and I just like I can't remember for how long I slept, but it just sometimes you just need to do that.
Yeah, I mentioned how therapeutic, right? I mean, that's it's like a release you're getting as you're belting these songs out that you may have like kept inside you for so long. And it's refreshing that I can't really place you in a certain genre. It really showcases your diverse talents. In such a saturated music world, in my perspective, it really makes you stand out. And the sound was a big part of this record that I really loved. I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again. I'm an audiophile these days, Katerina. I'm very picky on how I want my music to sound, the way I want it to sound. You mentioned it was produced by your bassist, and I didn't have to mess with any EQ levels. I mean, it was great. I'm sure that it gives you that sense of comfortability in the studio, knowing you have someone like him working on this record, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you've built this chemistry and this is the team. Please keep them together if you can,
Oh, yeah.
because it looks like you found your team here. Um, but do you when you finish a track, do you fall into that trap where when you listen to the final version of it, you go, "Man, I should have sung it like this." But then you could change it when you're on stage.
Yeah, that's really fun. That's definitely
Yeah.
fun. There's a couple of notes I was having fun with during my show. But no, I was so happy with everything. I really was. And Jordan works really fast. He had my mixes to me really fast, and away we went. And there was barely any tweaks I had, honestly.
Hmm.
And the funny thing with Jordan, I don't know if many producers do this, but he will be like, "Oh, today we're just doing scratch vocals." So we'll just jump in.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I barely know this melody. I'm just still learning because he comes up with the melodies, and then we did lyrics together. So I'm still learning this melody and the exact notes. And I can see the screen. He's got a mirroring screen, so when I'm in the booth, I can see what he's doing with Melodyne. So he'll fix, like, let's say I do a first take, he'll fix all the notes. I'm gonna be like, oh, that's where I need to go. And so I'd do a couple of scratch vocals for each track, and then I would come in vocal day to do real vocals, and my scratch takes were better. And so many times we were like, oh no, we're gonna keep this scratch take, and I'm like, okay,
Looks like
weird.
it looks like I mean Jordan's the man. I mean, it looks like everything's like really in good hands here. Between writing and then structuring the songs and the production process, like we just talked about. Keep all this in mind as I'm asking this because the lyricism throughout this EP, it delivers a wider picture of you as a whole. It's a lot about your life and your traumas. I think I read that as well. Not easy to do, right? But the way you are able to translate your thoughts into such a productive outlet like creating music really speaks volumes. I mentioned how it was therapeutic. I can imagine how therapeutic this is. I begin to think of the tangibles like a theme or a message to your music, whether there's one or whether there's multiple. How important are themes to you, Katarina? Is that a big component of songwriting for someone like you?
Yeah, absolutely. I already need to have that first initial thought and feeling. And when Jordan starts creating sonically, I'll have things come up, and somehow they're going to intertwine with my first thought of what I came in with that day. So I think that's an important thing. And there's a lot of different ways to write music and to sing music. And so for me, that's what it is. It's just honesty. And that's
Hmm.
okay. I'm not so fantasy, and maybe I will be in the future, but for the foreseeable future, it's gonna be, yeah, this is me.
And I do encourage everyone to check out your music videos because they are a thing of beauty. I don't know if you're a big fan of film like I am. We talked about film, like jokingly about it earlier, but I'm a big fan of film and cinematography, and I noticed things like that in your music videos that really stood out. And it almost feels like this album is a snapshot of where you are in a certain time in your life, looking back, maybe a year or two from now, when you have another album or something like that. You're on stage and you're singing something like emotionally. Would it take you, you would think it would take you back to that time in your life when you wrote those lyrics, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it's something that's going to move away from me anytime soon. I've always had that melancholy feeling with me,
mhm,
and I think that's something that I'm always going to connect with. And it was really important, like I was
yeah,
saying, with visuals, but also the way that I wanted to do the video. And Kevin Moore, he was like, you can do, a performance video, but we need to have a storyline because this is your story and your
Yeah.
lyrics, they mean so much. And because I'm, branded more as a solo artist rather than female fronted, I think that was important too, to create a story. And I love film. I've never done film before. I think I was an extra in one video that never saw the light of day in my local town, but I'm so interested and I got to play that part. And I'm a huge adrenaline junkie, so I had a lot of fun doing those videos with Black Wolf.
Oh man, never say never. It's you're just getting started, so I'm stoked for you in the future. You did an interview with Dead Rhetoric not too long ago. I'm gonna quote this. Shout out to them because
Yeah,
I love this that you said this. I'm for sure going to keep music close to me because it's what my heart and soul wants. Remember that? Because I think there's a source of inspiration there. I mentioned that earlier, but you're seeing results. Okay? Celebrate your successes along the way because I think that's a very important thing. I don't think we've done that much a lot lately, especially me in the last 5 to 7 years, but a lot has taught me about a lot about the pandemic and going through that time frame has really taught me. So, and I can see that just looking at your face, like I can tell that there's a sense of passion that's really just unmatched. I know we covered a good amount of ground on this awesome conversation. I don't want to keep you too long, but Katerina, we'll stay in touch. Obviously, I want to do this again for your next
sure.
EP
Love
because
that.
you're teasing the hell out of me right now with new songs. But thank you so much for sharing so much about, of course, who you are and representing our music scene and the process and the form of art that you convey. It's really cool to see that from
Thank
the
you.
different no, thank you. And from the different experiences and perspectives in your timeline that you've taken and which you've discussed about, right? The people you have met and worked with during this debut record. And I feel like you found your sound with this one, but you're telling me, oh, Sonny, just wait. Let's go. We're entering an exciting chapter with you, and I'm excited to see where you go from here. I'm gonna end the conversation on this question here. If you were to tell your 2022 self advice from this version that's sitting in front of me right now, what would it be? Whoa, Winnie the Wings now.
You know, I feel like tearing up.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I just love I can't help but ask that question. Just everything leads up to that.
Man, I feel like during those years I really did feel alone because
Hmm.
sure, everyone that is a indie artist that isn't in a band that has that collaborativeness going on, that's just kind of like, how do I start? Where do I go? I probably would have told her, don't worry, it's gonna be fine and you're gonna figure it out. And I definitely praise myself for that because it takes a go-getter to start seeing results. And that's
Yeah.
all I've had to do is just keep working hard, not being afraid to ask people questions or for help or hey, do you have a friend? Something like that. So to anybody who's listening that needs that, do it. Just do it. You'll be fine.
I'm gonna put this in a time capsule and we'll revisit it in a couple of years. It's great to see, and I was just losing my thought here, but I was just gonna say that I think your story can serve as an inspiration because like me, like even like you, people were like just kind of in the middle of what do we do, because there was nowhere to go at that time. And for most at least, and you were able to come out of the darkness with this amazing form of art that you have, and it's your baby, the serene and violent oceans, and it's gonna evolve into, one of those, what is it, caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly. Like, you're already at the butterfly stage at this point, so it's already like
Oh, geez.
and sky's the limit. So, but I appreciate you sharing your story, and we'll obviously stay in touch. And there's just so much down the road, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here in Dallas. And I'm probably gonna go to that Spirit Box show now. I wasn't really planning on it, but now that I'm talking to you, I gotta go check it out because I feel like there's gonna be a sense of it's like Katerina's spirit just like
Oh my
flowing somewhere,
God.
and I'm just gonna see. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be great. Down the road, she's gonna be opening up for them.
Who are they gonna be performing with? I forget.
Dying Wish, and Emma was on a show not too long ago. Shout out to Emma as well. And I forget there's another band there's three bands. Um, it's a big tour. They sold out. Tomorrow's the first date actually. That and which, when it comes to hold on. Loathe.
Loath. I thought it was Loath. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've never
Very good. I'm happy for them. That's great.
I've
They were
never
actually here
yeah.
in Athens, Greece last summer, and I should have
Yeah.
just first went. It would have been a short boat ride. And you know what I was going to say too is I
Yeah.
want to perform at South by Southwest. I used
Oh,
to I used to nanny in Dallas when I was like 16. Like a weird story how it happened. But I also went to Austin and the guy that I was nannying for, he was always like, one day you're going to perform at South by Southwest and you got to check it out. I still haven't checked it out, but I'm like, maybe my first time there will be performing. You never know. We'll see
hold up. I know some people. I have some connections. We'll stay in touch. Trust me.
next year.
Dude, yes. Dude, I'm so proud of you, really. Keep it going. Katerina, do you have any last words, any shout outs, anything else you'd like to plug or mention as far as new album or I don't know, new music video? I don't know what you can I cannot say. I don't want to put you on the spot, but whatever you
No,
want to finish things off with here.
I'm going to try and announce as best I can when I got some shows lined up. So that's going to be
Okay.
exciting.
Okay. And I look forward to your response on what do you take with you on the road. I gotta know this now.
Yeah. Okay. Leave that with me for the next
Okay,
one.
okay, yeah, okay. Everyone who's listening, this is the amazing Katerina Nicole. Serene in Violent Oceans is out now. Do me and Katerina a favor. Buy the record, listen to it, give her all the streams because, like I said, this is going to be a voice you're going to be hearing a lot down the road. Make sure you check us out on all major podcast streams out there. Check us out on interviewunderfire.com. Katerina, much love. Nothing but the best for you and your team from here on out. Take care of yourself, and I will see you down the road. Okay.
Thank you, Sonny.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
See ya.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Interview Under Fire podcast. If you guys liked what you heard, please subscribe and share our channel. And please leave a 5-star review as that helps us tremendously. If you'd like to check out more, visit www.interviewunderfire.com or our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And finally, we want to thank you all for the support you've been giving us. Keep it burning.